which is a film on the Hospital Cleaners Union that that premiered at the Freedom Film Festival in 2019 in September. And today I'm joined by two participants for this forum. The first one is Saras, and she is the Executive Secretary of the Hospital Cleaners Union. Saras, you want to say hi to the to all our viewers today? Saras,
are you there? Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for everything. Without your support, we won't be here now. So thank you so much to everybody.
Great, thanks, Saras. And we also have Edmund Bon here, and he is a human rights lawyer who will be speaking about the issue from a more legal perspective. Edmund, do you want to give maybe a quick introduction of yourself and say hi?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about workers' rights and in the context of the hospital cleaners experience. So if you guys have been following the issue for some time, you may know that recently Saras, along with 4 other union members, were arrested at a protest last week. And they were released the day after and are now facing an ongoing court case with the police, who have charged them with 2 offenses. And basically, this protest has been a culmination of a lot of ongoing issues that hospital cleaners in Malaysia have been facing. And today we're going to be talking about some of those issues, and we're going to be talking about the wider context that this protest and the hospital cleaners' ongoing struggle has taken part in. So there's going to be some discussions about, human rights law, employment law, and it might be a bit, if it's a bit jargony at times and there's some terms that you don't understand, please feel free to send in your questions on Facebook, and we will address them at the end of the forum. So the overall structure of the forum is we're going to have about 40 minutes where we'll be having a guided discussion between myself and Edmund and Saras. And then the last 20 minutes are going to be a Q&A with the audience. So if you guys have any questions about what we're about to discuss, please do send your questions in and we will discuss them at the end of the forum. So that's pretty much how it's going to be. So I'll just get right into it because there's a lot to talk about. But my first question I want to specifically direct towards Saras, which is, could you give us maybe a quick overview of what the situation facing hospital cleaners is right now, Saras?
Very much, Minzy. Hi. So I would like to talk about the periods of union busting. Okay, how the workers suffering. This union is formed in 1997 and was dormant for 22 years. And this sector has 80% of women workers. Okay, so in 2016 we have taken over. One group of workers have taken over the union. Since then, we were doing the mobilizing, membership drive, and so on. But very a pressing time or prominent time of union busting was, you see, there was a former employer by the name of NS Medic, but then the so-called third party, Agenta UMS, came backdoor, and then they started, going to all the hospitals because they are the subcontractor for Perak, Penang, Kedah, and Panellists. So they went behind and they were started telling there's no union. January, we are going to take over. So if you are still in union, we won't absorb you in our company. So that was first phase. From July to December, so much harassment. So we put forward, complaint to, according to IR Act, we made complaint to IR Department, Putrajaya, and then they've called us first meeting on the 6th November, whereby Agenta Group Berhad, the parent company, Agenta Mediserve is a concessionaire company which has contract with the government, and then NS Medic and third party Ajanta UMS, and then the officers in IR department, they told no union busting. And we also signed MOU saying that there shouldn't be any, no one should cross their borders, you know. Then after that, we came back again, started union busting, and then that's first phase. Second phase was on the 1st January 2020, 6 workers were not absorbed into Ajanta UMS because they signed the protest letter, because they gave offer letter on the 19th of December only, because they were in July, but then they came in officially on the 19th December to give offer letter. But in the offer letter, they had a 15 days public holiday and other benefits. Then we have CA too, and then after that, they say only 11 days public holiday. So workers protest, more than 200 workers right there. Kita terima dengan pantahan. But the 6 workers were not absorbed in by the UM Ajanta. So this has made the union very difficult, because workers were scared, that there's no more union. And then, if we are in union, they will retrench us, they will sack us, they will revenge us. So lot of uncertainty. So that's the second phase. Third phase was, once they taken over in January, all out. Before, as a third party, they went in. After 1st January, they went in to all the hospitals, started harassing. No union, no job. No union. If you're in the union, we will terminate you. This kind of harassment going on, and then until we have to picket, because we have made 23 complaints to IR department Putrajaya, and we have sent, union has sent 10 letters to the UM Ajanta and UM Group Berhad to engage us, because every day we are hearing lot of complaint. We have this dialogue with the IR department, but the things are not changed. And then the enforcement, where is the enforcement? Union busting is very clearly said in IR Act, the section 4 and 5. Nobody can intervene in the union. The management cannot. But then here, openly the management is doing the union busting. We have sent the reports to the government, sent to them, nothing has happened. That has then no solution. So we have to picket according to the IR Act. We went to picket on the 2nd June 2020. We wanted the management to engage with us. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Saras. I think that's it's a pretty difficult situation, it sounds like, that the union is facing right now. Maybe for a few of our viewers here who have not heard of the union before, just to give a bit of an overview. So the union is actually a national union, right? That is covering all of Peninsular Malaysia. Yes? Oh, sorry, I think your mic is on mute. Yeah.
This is a national union for the not only the cleaners, for the technicians, for the laundry people, supervisor, and everybody. The scope is very wide. But then, unfortunately, the technician, the cleaners, the supervisors were under Ajanta Mediserve, and they get all the perks. Okay, but then the cleaners were subcontract out. So they are the one very vulnerable to this contract system. And the union was formed in 97, but dormant for 20 years. And now we have taken over. And the union is to protect the workers' right. Because union is an organization, it's an intermediate between the management and the worker. So, and it is registered under our Trade Union Act, and it's under by the government. So why a company, GLC company, is so threatened by the union, and they're openly, blatantly doing the union busting, which is against the law. And it is what they call, it's janaya, It's a criminal act of the management to do this.
Yes, thank you, Saras. yeah, I think it's very important to be able to see that the union is there to represent the voices of the workers in negotiations with the management. So actually, when my co-director and I, Ashraf, were filming Bila Kami Bersatu last year, we were actually able to see one of these negotiations between the union and the previous management company, which was called NS Medic, as Sarah said. And during these negotiations, there was a lot of back and forth. It wasn't always cordial, but there was actually a lot of, there was a lot of discussion that was happening on both sides. So I think it's important to note that the situation that we're facing now, where there has been a breakdown of communication between management and the union, is actually it's quite a serious situation that has escalated from last year. Would you say so, Saras, that actually it has gotten worse than it was before? Sorry, I think your mic is off again.
Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry, yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my question was like, would you agree that the situation has actually gotten worse than it was before? Because I remember last year when we were making the film, there was actually negotiations happening between the union and the management, but now it seems that the communication has totally broken down.
Yeah. We signed a collective agreement with the NS Medic, the former management, on the 23rd October 2019. After 2 months, new company is coming and saying, they're not the party, and we got the cognizance number from the industrial court, So it's a living document at the moment. This company say, no, I'm not party to it. So we have taken up a case against that, non-compliance under Section 18, and it is in the industrial court. And because of COVID and political situation, the matter is pending. So by the time we get the judgment, I think they will successfully, the management will break the union, because the situation is so bad. After the protest, and today the management is coming, we are asking them to engage with us, okay? But then they are calling one by one, the exco one by one, and they want to negotiate, which they cannot do that. They have to respect the union. They have to send a letter to the union for a negotiation, which we are waiting for almost a year. So as a professional, they claim they're GLC company, big company, they must respect the union. They must call the union, not individually calling and threatening again. Now also we are hearing in the hospital, they're calling the workers to sign, without letting them know what is the accusation. So what? So, in daylight robbery, this is daylight robbery. Taking away the rights of the worker is a daylight robbery. And the government come out and say, DG say, it's the issue between you and your union. It's an internal issue. What nonsense is he talking? The health ministry is the ministry giving out the contract. And now there's issues, all spreading very, very, they know it's blatantly union busting going on. Why can't they intervene? They wash their hand for what? Under the concession, under the contract system, you want to wash away. You are a government of the day, and you have to respect the workers. Workers are your people, the riot. You must intervene. This is what the union is calling for. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Saras. Yeah, I think it's very clear to see that the situation has gotten quite serious. So I just wanted to move on to the next question, which is bringing up this issue of the contract system, which you've mentioned. And basically, maybe I will give a quick summary first about what we mean by this term of contract system. And then I'd like to ask you and Edmund to maybe comment on how the contract system affects workers. So to start with, if anyone is wondering what this term contract system means, basically it is a way of referring to fixed-term contracts as a form of employment. So when we think about employment, we can think about it in terms of permanent staff. So, you know, your regular kind of job where you get certain benefits and you are employed on a permanent basis. And you can also think about it in terms of a fixed term. So this fixed term contract is usually for cleaners between 1 to 3 years, and it will be renewed on a contractual basis. And every time the contract is renewed, basically it's as if they are brought in as new workers. And what this also means is that there aren't as many protections for these cleaners as there would be for permanent staff in the hospital, such as doctors and nurses, because they're not really considered to be permanent employees of the hospital, but more just contractual labor that is brought in on a fixed term basis. So this is obviously not something that is unique to hospital cleaners. Even within hospitals, there are many individuals in the hospitals apart from cleaners who are employed on a fixed term basis. For example, I'm not sure if you guys had heard of this, but during the first month or so of the MCO, there was a Facebook post that went quite viral about a medical officer who was employed on a fixed term contract and was told the day before he was supposed to go out on the front lines that basically his contract would be cut short after 2 years. And he was talking about how it was very demoralizing for him as a medical officer to know that basically he would be starting this job and then it would end so quickly. And there wasn't any long-term guarantee for his employment. So this is obviously, the contract system is an issue that affects many industries. But I just wanted to ask Edmund and Saras, maybe starting with Edmund, if that's okay. How does this contract system affect workers, and especially workers who are similar to the cleaners in the sense of they are considered to be not as high skilled in a sense?
Yeah, thank you, Minzy and Saras, for having me on this show. I'm happy to note that you're talking about this issue that's, I think, really important, because the contract system allows employers basically to fix a term of contract with certain terms of pay and negotiate it separately from a longer relationship apart from that contract. So in terms of poor and marginalized and vulnerable workers, when the government privatized a lot of its services, and we must bear in mind that cleaning services are frontline work. It is the responsibility of government to ensure the right of water, sanitation to every human being. And that includes people living in hospitals or patients in hospitals. So this comes from a human rights perspective. And if we look at what government is supposed to do, government has to ensure that the places are clean, hospitals sheets are laundered and is maintained properly. Now, when you look at how government then decides, or when government decides to subcontract it out to private companies, the private companies will have profit in mind. And when they have profit in mind, they will use different devices and mechanisms as private employers to reduce the burden of needing to pay more or pay in a more of a longer term and allow for longer job security. So a lot of these cleaners, if they were employed under government service, would have had more benefits because of the years of seniority, and then of course with tenure as well as increments in their pay. But when the government decides to privatize and give it out to private contractors, then the employees will be at the mercy of private contractors. And this is something that's going to be really common when you have a lot of private employers coming into fray. And also we see that quite common. Grab drivers, Grab workers, the gig economy. A lot of these are contract relationships But I'm not saying that all contract relationships are bad. I think we need to look at whether those contract relationships deal with people at a more vulnerable group, a more marginalized sector of society, like the cleaners who earn basically minimum wage for many years. Number two, whether their services are essential. So if you look at, and I would say their services are essential. If their services are non-essential, and perhaps they come from a different pay scale, then maybe you can talk about a contract of service for a certain period, a fixed period. Like maybe a film producer, your project is just for that project. We can fix it. But for these frontliners, so not only hospital staff, not only doctors, not only nurses, but people who actually clean the hospitals, even journalists are frontliners. These are essential services. And if government says, okay, they are essential services, but I'm going to outsource it to private companies, then that has become a problem. Imagine if we had public hospitals that were no longer public. Imagine if we were like America and the government of Malaysia had privatized all hospitals. You will not be able to treat COVID as how Malaysia has treated COVID. And this is the same example that I give all the time, because when you have certain privatization of certain types of essential services and public goods, this is the problem that occurs. So vulnerable groups and essential services, to me, if it's linked to human rights, these are two factors that really need to be taken into account by government first, because it's their responsibility to protect human rights. But two, also, if it's given out to private contractors, these private contractors must be held to account.
Thank you so much, Edmund. That's a really great, I think a really great breakdown of the situation. And I just wanted to also ask Saras, in terms of from the workers' point of view, since you work directly with all these different cleaners and you've spoken to many of them and followed their stories, do you feel like the cleaners, they kind of understand what's happening with this contract system, and what do you feel their reaction to it is, knowing that they are contract workers? Kind of like, that medical officer that I referenced just now on Facebook, who said that he was very sad and disappointed about the fact that, his contract was cut short. Do you feel like the cleaners have a similar response to this contract system as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The first thing after we got recognition by the secret ballot, the first thing we called all the workers for a meeting. And they said, what is your demand? Because we have to come up with a collective agreement after you were recognized. So the first thing, all the workers unanimously say, hapuskan system contract. They say, abolish the system contract. Then the second demand, the very important demand, increase the wage. So can you see that how angry the workers were against the contract system? Because all the perks, all the benefits they get, if a new contractor comes, they will taken away from that. You see, initially these workers are IMAs. They were they work under government. They are IMAs. They were given pay rise, yearly pay rise. They got other increment, and they have all the benefit like loan. They can get bank loan, government loan, and then study loan. So many benefits, and then they get all the leaves, public holidays according to the government. Everything was taken away. So from 1997 till now, almost 10 subcontractors were changed. So every time they change, these workers become new workers. So I will give you that the workers have been working for 26 years. Okay, then they become a new worker. Like new worker, when a new contract takes in, then they lose everything, and they're getting their pay 1,002 like the new worker. So you see, 26 years you have been working, and why you are giving 1,002? And this is not seasonal job, as Edmund say. This is an essential job where they have to clean. Like they were were during the COVID, they were in the front line, doctors and nurses, and they were cleaning the dirt. And it's a 3D job, dirty, difficult, and dangerous. They're dealing with all kind of dangerous diseases. And why the government not recognizing them as a frontliners? And this contract system must be abolished because it is really exploiting, like Kunta Kinte time. You know, they're exploiting the workers very badly, which the human rights society, the people of riot of Malaysia, they have to look into this situation, the pathetic situation. It's not the seasonal job. Don't misuse the fixed-term contract. Okay, they work in the same hospital for 20 years. They work in same place, same job they're doing. So why are you misusing? Thank you.
So maybe I want to add here, since Saras has raised it, and I know I didn't really understand the full extent of what a cleaner's job is until I watched your documentary, and I watched what was shown on FFN and listened to them, and I appreciated that a lot of the work that they do is really difficult and really hard, and I think a lot of us appreciate it. It's just that there's so much information and misinformation that sometimes it gets lost. But when you talk about a lot of these low wage earners, the government should actually be protecting them a bit more, and we have laws to protect them. But what has happened in this case, this particular case, appears as a lawyer, if you look at the facts of the case, after difficult negotiations for a collective agreement, suddenly there was a change of an employer quite immediately. And then the employer now says, okay, I may be going to pay you a little bit more, but I'm not going to respect your earlier collective agreement that you have bargained so hard. And number two, the seniority is lost. So because of the contract system, if these workers were in permanent employment, they would have benefited from the seniority. But because every time it's cut, there's a new contract, unfortunately, they under the law, they lose. However, the good news is, and this really is something that the employers should think about, the federal court in May 2020, in the case of Ahmad Zari against IMAS Cyberjaya, and all industrial court lawyers, and I think Agenta's lawyers would already have advised them, is that the court has said, look, even though if it's a different company, you can actually lift the corporate will, meaning if it's a different company that renews the contract successively, you can actually still go after the same first employer and look at the contract as a whole. So of course, what it means for the cleaners may be slightly different on the facts of the case, but I think industrial law in Malaysia is such that you need to look more on the good conscience and the morality of certain practices. And it's good that the federal court has recognized even the ILO convention not to discriminate. If employers are using the contract system to get around seniority, security, as well as salary, then there is something wrong, because it may amount to abuse of power and conspiracy. Therefore, these are some things which I would urge employers to think about. I'm an employer myself, and when these cases come out, we have to be very mindful of some practices which may need to change. And collective bargaining, right to association, are things that are recognized in the federal constitution.
Thank you so much, Edmund. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that's I didn't actually know about that case, so I think that's quite hardening to hear about the fact that the courts have ruled in that direction. I actually also
talk about the case too much, because Agenta's lawyers will be watching this, I'm sure, and Agenta
yes.
as well. I think it's time that Agenta looks at it. If Agenta is really serious, and I've seen a lot of their press statements, they say, yeah, we are cognizant of the issue, we want to try and improve, then let's the people and the union should actually, and Agenta should actually sit down and talk and say, look, let's be honest, let's be genuine about this and move forward. That's one. But of course, I don't like it when government washes their hands off and says, look, these are private employers, you know, nothing to do with us. You cannot do that. As a government, whichever government you are, you have a commitment to ensure the right to sanitation for all, clean, healthy environment for all. And how do you do that? You have your frontliners to do that. And when your frontliners are in trouble, you should be the first to step in, using your powers and policies to get people in line. And if employers are getting around it, then it reflects really badly on the government administration. So it's not just the employers involved and government pushes to the employer, employer pushes back to the government. You can't do that, because at the end of the day, the person that is fighting for you in the front line are these cleaners who are getting, you know, minimum wage.
Yes,
so
thank you so much.
It's not moral. It's not moral. It may be legal, but it's not moral.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I think there have been a few questions that have come in, but I think there is some confusion in terms of who is actually liable in terms of the health and safety of these cleaners. And obviously, based on what you've just said and you know, all the kind of statements that have come out, it seems to be between the private employers and the government a kind of passing back and forth of liability, let's say. And I think it's great that you've taken, you know, that you've made it very clear that it's not one or the other, it's everyone. We're all liable for the health and safety of our frontliners, and that includes the government, that includes private employers, and also it includes the public, you know, like, because we are there to, we have to kind of hold these institutions to account. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I think just to kind of keep on track with time, I'm just going to move on to the next question, if that's okay, and then we can go to the Q&A, because quite a few have come in. And I think maybe some of them have been answered somewhat by what our discussion so far, but just to be clear, I think we can go over them at the end. But basically, my final question for this discussion phase of the forum is, you know, what are the next steps? From both of your perspectives, Edmund and Saras, I'm really interested to hear what you feel are the next steps in order to protect cleaners, because I think it's become quite clear that they are in a vulnerable situation. You know, they've been facing, the union has been facing a lot of harassment, and also a lot of the issues that I was covering last year for the film, you know, haven't been resolved. There has been an incremental pay rise for, you know, UMS cleaners from 1,100 to 1,200 ringgit, but that's still very little, especially when you account for EPF and SOCSO deductions. And there's also, you know, this issue of the contract system that's ongoing that really, you know, underprivileges these cleaners. So my question is kind of, what are the next steps from your perspectives as a lawyer, Edmund, and also as a union member and a labor activist, Saras, in terms of how to resolve this question. Saras, do you think you could maybe answer first? What are the next steps that we need to take?
Before I'm going to that, in 2016, when a former employer took over, they deduct 50 ringgit from the pay. That means they were paid 950. The new contractor comes in, they deduct, they gave 900. So workers were very angry. We went and protested at Kementerian Kesihatan. So the ministry say, if a new company taking over, okay, they cannot reduce the benefit which they are getting now, okay. But here at Ajanta UMS, when they took over, they brought down the public holiday from 15 days, where the workers were enjoying the benefit for the past 30 years. Okay, 15 days public holiday. So Magenta say, no, we will give you only 11 days. So they steal the 4 days public holiday profit from the workers. And then the worker was pushed to do from one location. Usually they do one location, already big, a lot of work. But now Ajanta UMS is pushing them to do 2 locations or 3 locations. again, they're bringing down the workforce. They're robbing from there. So all the benefit before they get 15 ringgit uniform. I mean, for the uniform, for what do you call that? What a laundry allowance now taken out, and shift allowance. Everything is deprived of. So this UMS is really using this contract system to still rob the workers. I would daringly say they're robbing the worker, which Kementerian say cannot. Okay, what we are going to do next? We will pressure. We want the ministry to involve the health ministry and human resource ministry immediately. They have to call for a meeting. They must use their political will to resolve this matter. We say stop the harassment and engage with us. If it is going to go on like this, the government should stop giving out contract to the union buster. So we will campaign. After this, nothing is resolved. Workers are asking what we should do. We will go for the campaign. These workers are frontliner. Government should absorb them. So we will continuously tell the government, don't victimize in the name of contract system. So the lot of campaigns we are going to come out with, and we are going to go to health ministry to demand for a fairer treatment and demand for a recognition of the what do you call this CA. And then we want them to cancel the contract to Agenda UMS because they are really doing union busting, which is against the Malaysian law and against the ILO law. Thank you.
Yeah, there is, I always say this, we must do legislation, 1, we must do litigation, 2, and we must do demonstration, 3. It's a multifaceted, multi-sectorial type of approach, and we should do as much as we can. In terms of legislation and policy change, there are 4 things that can be done. 1, I think we need to ensure that minimum wage now becomes living wage. There's a lot of studies now that whatever minimum wage that is being paid is way too low. It does not meet the living wage, and we should start introducing a living wage, or at least in a staggered form. The second thing that we need to do is to identify essential services and public goods. I like this word frontliners because everybody started to use these frontliners after pandemic, right? So if you become a frontliner, it appears that you have a special place in society. If you find, or government finds who these frontliners are to make sure COVID doesn't happen again, or something like COVID doesn't happen again, then the people who are providing services or providing these goods, these essential services, cannot be outsourced, cannot be privatized. If it is to be privatized, then I've always said this, make sure you have a tripartite agreement. Means if it's going to be outsourced to an employer, make sure government is also part of that contract of employment. And therefore, you then bind the government, how you want to define that employee, whether the employee is a government servant or a quasi-government servant, that's something for lawyers to think about. But that's a fertile ground to discuss a new model in what we have been always talking about when migrant workers come, government wash your hands of it. You may want to have that kind of tripartite agreement. So that's 2. You cannot outsource certain services. Number 3, Malaysia really needs a right to health and right to work act. We don't have that right. In the constitution, we only have the right to life under Article 5, but we are not specific enough to say, what does the right to work entail? Does the right to work entail non-discrimination? Does the right to work entail making sure that all the employees are protected, are given PPE, for example? What does that entail? So many countries have the right to health and right to work act. We need a right to health and right to work act. The constitution is not enough. And therefore, I think that's agitation that we need to get government to do, because the government says, look, we are so good, right? We're giving people right to health, giving people right to work. Why don't they just put it in law? And then the 4th one, of course, is to really get all our ratifications of the ILO conventions done. It's just too long that we have been not signing all of these. And the international community has always said, it's time for Malaysia to do it.
Thank you so much, you guys. I think let me just, so we have about 15 minutes left. We don't want to run on for too long, but I'll just bring up a few of the questions that people have asked and also a few comments. So from Adrian Long, there's a few questions where, and I'll just read them out and maybe you guys can answer them once I'm done. I'll read a few at a time. So the first set is: are cleaners working in public hospitals employees of the government, or are they employees of a cleaning service provider / external contractor? Does it vary by government hospital / government clinic? And the second question is: who was the decision maker who denied cleaners the RM 600 allowance? What is the name and what is the designation? And lastly, it is, I see from the slides being shown that cleaners are employees of private concessionaires. Is it correct then that the government has no legal obligation to award the same RM 600 to the cleaners? In which case, what should the government do to revise the contract between the government and the private concessionaires so as to ensure cleaners' rights to occupational health, safety, hazard pay in the same manner that the MOH's staff are? So I think a few of some of these have already been answered within the talk, but I guess the main stuff that hasn't is the question of regarding cleaners being employees of cleaning service providers. So they are private employees, but does it vary by government hospital / government clinic? I think, Saras, maybe you can answer this. Is there a difference between the contractors around the different hospitals?
Ajanta, they have contract in northern region, Perak, Penang, Kedah, Perlis, okay? So all of them, all the clinic staff under this contractor, okay? So there's no government hospital cleaners now. For now, no cleaners, government cleaners, but all of them under contract. And southern region, southern and east region like Selangor, Pahang, Kelantan, Terengganu, their concessionaires are Medicare. And southern region, Melaka, Negeri Sembilan, Melaka, Johor by Mediwest. Okay? There's Sabah, one Mediwest, and Sedafiat, Sarawak. So there are 5 big concessionaires they've taken. And they've, in Selangor, it's worse. At least in Perak, Penang, Kedah, Perlis, they've given to, initially they've given to NS Medi, one private contractor. Now UMS has taken over all the cleaners. But in Selangor, in one state, they have 15 hospitals. One hospital, different contractor. Okay? So very, very difficult situation. You know, they don't give, they give to one concessionaire, but they employ multiple contractors, make the situation, the life worse. And they don't pay, even during the COVID, they didn't pay the workers pay accordingly.
Can I ask Saras, just to, I hear somewhere that Ajanta is one of the subsidiary companies of Khazanah, is that right?
Ajanta Group Berhad, the parent company.
And then it's related to Khazanah?
Yeah, later they have 100% share in Khazanah.
So it's actually a GLC?
GLC company. It's a GLC.
So it's government linked, right?
Exactly, exactly. So now the government, with political will, they have to come out and do, you know. So they were really ill-treated. But then the technician, I would say, technician and supervisors are paid well. They're taken care of well. They wanted to have a, you know, they wanted to keep the cleaners on a lower strata. Every worker you see by they get the pay on the 26th or 27th. By 6 or 7, they don't have money already. Money for petrol. I mean, you're really exploiting the workers. So this company which is exploiting the workers, the concessionaires, I think government must stop. Otherwise, government must use their political will. Don't hide by the legal term. Don't hide yourself by legal term. The Health Ministry and Human Resource Ministry, they have to take care of the workers' right, workers' plight, and they must use their political will to solve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Saras. Yeah, I just was going to ask the question again about linked to what you just said. Who was the decision maker that denied cleaners the 600 ringgit allowance? Do you guys know specifically who actually decided on, because I think it's not just cleaners who are exempt. There's quite a few people, I think pharmacists, psychiatrists as well. So who was the decision maker behind that? People are asking. Sorry, Sarah, you're on mute.
So once the government announced, the frontliners will who handle the COVID will get 600. Immediately, union has sent a letter to the Kementerian Kesihatan, the Health Ministry. But then they did not reply, but the press told us, the government said they are not, they are not responsible for giving 600 to the frontliners because they are not under government. See, the union has made a lot of attempt to pull in the government since 2016.
But there's no clear knowledge of who actually made the decision, right? Within the MOH.
No, we don't know who made it. But then subsequently, UAMS, they come out with a one-off 300 ringgit for the workers after the government announced 600. So the UAMS only gives 300 for one-off.
Yeah.
One-off.
And the government one is a monthly allowance, right?
Yes, monthly allowance, because they are daily, they are engaged with the pandemic, dangerous virus,
Okay, I'll move on to the last question is it correct that the government has no legal obligation? Is it correct that the government has no legal obligation to award the same 600 ringgit to the cleaners? In which case, what should the government do to revise the contract between the government and private concessionaires? Edmund, could you give us maybe a quick answer to this, and then we'll move on, because there's a lot of questions.
You need to bear in mind that all the pre-Hatin payouts, good as they might be, are all policy. So policy depends on practices and depends on rules. They are not law. So if they are not paid out, you cannot sue. So if you are a private employee, then what recourse do you have if it's not law? That's why we have asked that if you want to have B40 cash transfers, you want to have better social protection for the vulnerable groups, you need to make it law. You need to have a right to social protection act, for example. You cannot just, now everybody just relying on the charity and the handout of government. If government doesn't want to give, you cannot sue them.
Okay, thank you so much for making that clear. I did get a question, a comment from somebody that said, so two comments slash questions, and I think one for Edmund and one for Sarah. So one is, from what I understand, I don't see that the employer has done anything against the law, as per what Mr. Lawyer has explained to us just now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Edmund. So if you could maybe speak to that, Edmund, regarding the legality of the case, and then, or the legality of the situation here. And then someone said regarding Sarah's comment that UMS came in through the back door. They're like, apa maksud back door? So what do you mean by that? Because it's like, how can a company that has hired the staff be backdoor? So they want clarification on those statements. So could we get just a quick answer to those two questions slash comments, and then we can, because there's quite a few more, and maybe we will extend it like 5 minutes. So we will end at 4:05 instead of 4. So yes, those two questions.
Hi. Backdoor mean the what present contractor is still having contract, okay, with the workers, okay. So this in July was NS Medic was there. So NS Medic don't know the new company is going to come, or the union was not informed. So suddenly we were told that someone told that UMS was going to take over. Okay, so July they went to all the hospital campaign. Then the union, because we signed agreement with the NS Medic, we asked them, who is this UMS? They also say they don't know. So that's why we say it's backdoor, and they cancelled the NS Medic contract, you know, the Agenta, Mediserve, they sent cancelling of the contract of NS Medic in somewhere in December or November. And then 20th December, UMS is giving the workers the offer letter. So what is it? You must give termination letter, or you must give time to, you know, to take over and everything. Nothing has been done. So quietly, like a thief, you come in through backdoor, third party. This is what we are saying. Okay?
Yeah. Just to clarify, by July, you mean last July, right? In 2019.
July 2019. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the contract for UMS was supposed to start January 2020, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. They only give the offer letter in December 20. How come? How come you only give 2 weeks before your offer letter? You don't know the law. You must be given ample notice, but time for the workers to decide whether I want to continue, whether you are continuing. Yes or no?
Okay. Thank you. Edmund, could you maybe
quick answer.
Thanks.
This is not a legal strategy clinic. And I don't think we want to review the legal arguments, but all I'll say is look at it as a scheme. Look at who is on top. Look at successively who is been given the contract. It is a scheme, and it appears from the conduct of the parties that a scheme is in play. This is what I would say generally how I would answer the question as to the legality of such a scheme.
Thank you, Edmund. Okay, I will just okay, I'll bring up a few more questions. So we have a question from Aina Aiman. And she says, hi, my name is Aina, a reporter from Free Malaysia Today. Can you please summarize your demands and urges to the government and to the company, Ms. Saras? And secondly, another question is also, do you think that the MCO has made it easier to exploit hospital workers and cleaners due to higher workload but same pay, etc.? So maybe just a quick response to these two questions, and then I'll answer. And then we can maybe do one or two more.
Yeah, the demands. Okay, since again and again, the union is telling, or the public is telling that. Cleaners are doing 3D job and they are frontliners. So government must recognize that they are frontliners and they must absorb them into government, because they should not allow these frontliners to suffer or become vulnerable to the contract system. And then UMS have to stop immediately union busting, and stop intimidating, harassing the workers. And then we want UMS, Kementerian Kesihatan, Kementerian Sumber Manusia to engage with the union to resolve. The industrial harmony is in their hands, not in union's hand. It is in their hand. They have to amicably call for a meeting and we have to settle. And then if it's continued, we want the government to cancel the contract to a union buster. These are our demands. Thank you.
And sorry, the second question was, do you think that the MCO has made it easier for people to exploit the hospital workers and cleaners due to higher workload but same pay? That's the second question.
Definitely, because you see, for example, we did receive complaint, not enough PPE, and then we did appeal to UMS urgently, because they give 2 face masks for 1 week, or some hospital they give 2 face masks for 1 day. And because face mask is very important that particular period, where they clean the toilet and then they have to go to the ward to clean. So they were very, a lot of complaints from a worker. We immediately sent, and then double the work. The cleaners were told to do this work, that work, 1 location to 3 locations, and union was unable to communicate physically with the workers to encourage them, empower them, because we were isolated because of MCO. So for the past 3 months, we were unable to engage directly, and the management took advantage instead of taking care of their workers from COVID, but they exploit the situation. They did the harassment. Their main motive is to do the union busting. They want to kill the union. That's it. So they took the advantage to do the union busting. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Saras. Okay, I'm just gonna read out one more. I guess it's more of a comment than a question, but it's got to do with the protest that happened last week. So somebody, Lizam Yunus, commented, honestly, it is weird to see that only 1 out of 2,000 hospital workers who were picketing against their employers. So maybe I don't know if you want to talk about this, Saras, about the protest and what happened with that, and who was able to participate. And yeah.
Yeah. It's not one worker against 2,200 workers. No, we are still under CMCO. Okay. So there's no reply. So so the union has to do action according to law. Picket can. Okay. So we a few representatives from the workers came, and we strictly follow the social distancing and SOP. We have the name list, and we have the thermometer, and we had sanitizer, and we strictly followed. Then we wanted to tell the management that you come for dialogue. There are a lot of issues. Issues were raised to you, nothing has resolved. So you come. So no other way, because according to law, 23, again I'm repeating, 23 complaint to IR department, Putrajaya, the highest body of the country, and we also sent 10 letters from January to June. No reply, nothing. Every day we are hearing the intimidation. So we went up. So we protested peacefully. No sound. Peacefully we show the placard, union busting. Then the police came in, and then they say, okay, you can go inside the compound, okay, and you can, they will call the management. Then we put down the posters and went inside the guard room, in the general hospital. There were taxi drivers, there were patients, so many people inside the compound, and we 5 of us representatives, we wanted to, but UMS still claiming only one worker caught up, the others all who? They're questioning, but I'm an executive secretary, and Dana is an IRO, and then our treasurer, national treasurer. So all the union office bearers got arrested. Then we was waiting for the management to come. The police arrested us. That's it. So we wanted to have a very small. We want to follow the PKP rule, and we had a small protest. And then the management did not come, and the police arrested us. It's a wrongful arrest. We are telling till today. It's a wrongful arrest because PKP, we have to follow strict SOP and social distancing. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Saras. All right, so we're just about almost 10 minutes over 4 p.m. So I think I will wrap it up here. But if you guys have any more questions or any other comments that you want to leave, you can directly contact the union on their Facebook and their Twitter. And you can also directly message the Bila Kami Bersatu Twitter and Facebook page if you have any questions that you'd like to direct towards me. So please do tune in to future forums like this. The Wayang and Sembang series is going on every Thursday, being led by FFN. So next Thursday there will be another forum. And yeah, I hope that this conversation can continue, and you can keep up to date on the situation, like I said, on social media, and hopefully there will be more coverage coming out on the story as well, that you'll be able to see from us. So thanks very much for being a part of this forum. Thank you so much, Saras and Edmund, for taking the time to speak on this. I think it's a super important issue, and I hope that everyone who attended, you guys have, found it interesting and want to get more involved in the movement that's going on. So Thank you very much. Have a safe week, everybody.
Thank you very much, Edmund Bon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything. Thank you to the social media who have supported all the while to bring up the issue. Thank you on behalf of the cleaners. The union want to thank all the social media and supporters. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Lindsay.